Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's call to order the meeting of the Pennington County Planning Commission for March 14th, 2016. Roll call. Commissioner McCollum is apparently not going to be with us today, or maybe he'll turn up.
I saw him yesterday. He said he was coming.
Oh, okay. Then I suspect he got caught in the traffic problems downtown. And Commissioner Troutman is representing the county board for us today. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from February 22nd. Did everybody get a chance, to read those? If so, Chair would entertain a motion.
Move approval of the minutes as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of February 22nd as written. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Approval of the agenda. We have a lot of items, 21 items on our agenda today. Would somebody care to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as written. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The consent calendar. The following items have been placed on the consent calendar for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, by any staff member, or any audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. PJ, would you please read the consent calendar items into the record for us?
Sure. PJ Conover, Director, Planning Department. Item 3, conditional use permit review 8936 for Clyde Deanna Grauman to review a roofing business as a home occupation in suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 8936 with 7 conditions. Item 4, conditional use permit review 9128 for Donald and Iva Askew to review a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence in a low-density residential district. Staff recommends to end conditional use permit 9128 with the owner's concurrence. Item 5, conditional use permit review 9937 for Bob Young to review a mobile home park in a suburban residential district. Staff recommends to continue the review of CUP 9937 to the May 9th, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. Item 6, conditional use permit review 9940 for George Cholas to review a manufactured home as a ranch hand residence in the limited agriculture district. Staff recommends the approval of the extension of conditional use permit 9940 with 6 conditions. Item 7, conditional use permit review 0047 for Jeremy and Cheryl Smith to review a single-wide manufactured home as a single-family residence in the limited agriculture district. Staff recommends to end conditional use permit 0047 with the applicant's concurrence. Item 8, conditional use permit review 0633 for Christina Troutman to review a customary home occupation and animal hospital in a general agriculture district. Staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit 0633 with 11 conditions. Item 9, minor plan unit development amendment review 1405 for Joni Peterson to review an existing Trailwood plan unit development to allow for a home occupation, a salon business in the basement of the residence. Staff recommends approval of the extension of minor planned unit development amendment review 1405 with 8 conditions. Item 10, conditional use permit 1601 for Daniel Elliott to live in an existing cabin while building a new single-family residence on the subject property, and to also allow the existing cabin to remain on the property to be used as a guest house once the single-family residence is complete in a general agriculture district. Staff recommends to continue CUP 1601 to the March 28th, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. Item 11, conditional use permit 1602 for Eva Olson to allow a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence in a general agriculture district. Staff will ultimately recommend approval of conditional use permit 1602 with conditions. We're actually going to pull that one. Item 12, rezone 1601 for Thomas and Janine Price to rezone 3.37 acres from low-density residential district to suburban residential district. Staff recommends approval of rezone 1601. Item 13, comprehensive plan amendment 1603 for Thomas and Janine Price to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use of the southern portion of the subject property from plan unit development sensitive to Suburban Residential District. Staff recommends approval of Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1603. Item 14, construction permit 1602 for Hart Ranch Camping Resort Club to grade approximately 2.5 acres and to expand an RV storage area in the southern portion of the lot. Staff recommends approval of the construction permit 1602 with 6 conditions. It's the
Thank-
last one.
Thank you, PJ. Would any planning commissioner like to pull any of these items for further discussion? Would staff
Item 11, please.
would like to pull item 11? Is there any audience member who would like to pull any of these items for further discussion? Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay, we've pulled your item already, so it'll be coming up for discussion just momentarily. Not right now, thanks. Okay, we have items 3 through 14 on the consent calendar, except for number 11. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Pulling item 11. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, now we'll move on to item 11.
Morning, Cassie Bolstead, Assistant Planning Director. I pulled item number 11. It's a conditional use permit to allow a single-wide mobile home to be used as a single-family residence. The only reason that I wanted to pull this item is I had recommended approval with 11 conditions. Condition number 2 being that the applicant obtain a building permit for an unpermitted pole barn on the property. The applicant actually came in and did that on Friday, so I would like to remove that condition. So staff will be recommending approval of conditional use permit 1602 with 10 conditions.
Okay, are there questions for Cassie? Is there discussion on the item? Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve conditional use permit 1602 with 10 conditions.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve conditional use permit CU 16-02 with 10 conditions, removing condition number 2. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Very easy on her.
On to item 15.
Just gonna take 1 second here. I don't see the applicant in the room, just if he comes in, let me know. Item 15, rezone 1603 and comprehensive plan amendment 1602 to rezone 559.68 acres from general agriculture district to low-density residential district and to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from limited agriculture district to low-density residential district. The applicant is Mitch Morris, and the applicant has indicated that the purposes of this rezone are for residential development. The applicant has come before you prior to this with a similar request to actually rezone about 424 acres to suburban residential, which is actually a smaller lot size. That was ultimately denied by the Board of Commissioners on June 2nd, 2015 after an appeal. And I'm sorry, it was approved by the Planning Commission and ultimately let me start over.
PJ, could I interrupt you for just a moment?
Yeah.
Could you
Oh.
have the screens turned so we
Yeah.
can
Hold on.
see what the audience is seeing? Perfect.
Okay.
That's right, you guys can't see.
Can't, we have,
This
not
one
have
too.
eyes in the back of our head.
Well, yeah, the audience can't see that.
Yeah.
They can see behind us.
Cool, Andy?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, good. Take 2. Okay.
Take 2.
Back in May of 2015, the applicant had requested a rezone from general agriculture down to suburban residential. It was recommended for denial without prejudice by the Planning Commission, continued once by the Board of Commissioners, and ultimately denied by the Board of Commissioners. The reasons were stated that the request would allow for a large number of residential properties in the area, and existing utilities cannot support the request. Additionally, there were no immediate plans staff is aware of for the county to move utilities down into that area. We'll just get a little site plan here for you. you know where it is. So you got the city just north of you there, that's all in white. Right now, the applicant is back with a rezone requesting approximately 559.68 acres to be rezoned from general agriculture district to low-density residential district. Kind of an uncommon move. What we did with the applicant, because he's been here several times with several applications to rezone and conditional use permits and things, we actually invited him to one of our departmental review team meetings where we had over 13 or 12 different staff from the county and the city present, so that he could vet any of his concerns with staff and vice versa. We gave him about a half hour. He was there probably about 70 minutes, and I think it was very productive. He heard our side, we heard his side. Originally, this request that you're seeing now had 200 plus more acres to it. Since that time, he actually took off considerable amount of acreage. If you see here, all the hash marked area in blue was the original request. After that meeting, the applicant came in, this was what he dropped off with us, and removed that top portion for consideration, because he wanted to do what the commissioners have asked and what staff has asked, is to create a buffer between the DC tie there located to the north and the residential property proposed to the south. As you can see on this, about in the middle of the property, there's the approximate subject area. Again, it's general agriculture. He's asking to go down to low-density residential. There is a general commercial buffer immediately to the south of the DC tie. This is the new general commercial that's been approved over the last few months. The majority of the land is basically vacant of any structures. There is a conditional use permit for a landing zone on the southern portion of one of the properties. It's not an allowed use in low-density residential district. When the applicant was here prior, going down to suburban residential, it also wasn't a use in that district. However, he had indicated that if that rezone was approved, he would end that conditional use permit. He hasn't been asked, nor has he stated if he would do that again for this. So an approved rezone after the time has passed, it would automatically trigger a review of that conditional use permit for the landing strip in that area. The subject property is surrounded by a mix of county zoning, and about 2.5 miles out, almost every one of our zoning districts is present. Also in the future land use of that area, that exists as the same, where it's almost every one of our zoning districts. As you can see, this is the current map, current zoning. His area is checkmarked in the purple. And immediately across the street of Old Folsom Road right here is about 100 acres of low-density residential. There's about 5 houses there with addresses on them. I don't know about, as of this time, if all 5 of them are built. This is the future land use, and about 2.5 miles to the east and a little less than a mile to the west. As you can see, there's low-density residential, which is consistent with the applicant's request, and then also there's planned unit development, this lighter blue area, which is, again, the approved use of that land in the future. Most of it, again, is general agriculture as of this time. The future land use in that area, in that dark green, is going to be limited agriculture. So the applicant is not meeting that criteria for our comprehensive plan as far as zoning. As far as the existing land use out there, it does appear to be in harmony with what is happening. However, during the request for comment from different agencies, the Highway Department has indicated, and I'll just read what he wrote, that Old Folsom Road, which is the black road coming down through here, is not designed to handle the traffic volume that will be generated from a residential development of this magnitude. And again, paraphrasing, we're skipping down. Prior to final plat approval of a traffic study should be done showing the effect of the development on Old Folsom Road, and the developer should be responsible to make the required improvements from the development to Highway 79 prior to the Highway Department granting development access to Old Folsom Road. So essentially, as of this time, the Highway Department will not grant any accesses off of Old Folsom Road for any of this development until traffic study and road improvements are done. Fire coordinator stated that he has some concerns, but is hoping that during the platting, either through the county or Rapid City, it would actually be platted through Rapid City, that county fire may require a comprehensive explanation of future land use, water supply for fire use, ingress, egress, street road widths, residential fire sprinklers, and a timetable for the completion and possible addressing of other fire issues. The county natural resources director drafted a memo for the applicant to sign for noxious weed and prairie dog mitigation plans. The environmental planner has indicated that the applicant stated, and he did state this during the meeting, that he intends to use an incinerator septic system. More information is needed on the specifications of that system to be used as to, and how the system would work. And a system like this would need to go through the South Dakota Department of Environmental and Natural Resources. The Rapid City Public Works, because it is in their 3 mile, was routed on this request, and they indicated that even though the applicant has reduced the acreage, again, this is because he's taken off 200 acres from the original request, Public Works Engineering is unable to support the request without master planning and demonstrating adequate infrastructure can be provided to support the proposed residential development. In addition, the Rapid City Community Planning and Development Services was routed again as it exists in their 3 mile plating, so we would do that for anybody. And again, just picking out some of the things that were written is that during the review of the rezone and comprehensive plan amendment request, there were 4 conditions that need to be met for an amendment. And their conclusion is insufficient information was provided to determine if the proposed rezone and comprehensive plan amendment meet this condition. Again, these are city requirements, not county requirements. Ultimately, they concluded that their staff would recommend that rezone and comprehensive plan request be denied. There were 2 letters of concern that came in while the staff report was being written. One by the Rapid City Trap Club on March 9th, and on March 10th, the Department of Game, Fish, and Parks, and you have both inside your staff report packets. Again, just to sum up, for rezone 1603 and 1602, which is this request, the Pennington County Planning and Zoning Ordinance offers no guidance or criteria for county staff to refer to when deciding if a rezone request is appropriate. However, our comprehensive plan does give us a little bit of that guidance, which shows that the approved land use in that area, the immediate area of this request, if you did an overlay, would be limited agriculture district, but there is low-density residential district and suburban residential and planned unit development in the area. And that basically sums it all up. So staff is looking for guidance from the Planning Commission on how to move forward with rezone 1603 and comprehensive plan amendment 1602.
Thank you, PJ.
You're welcome.
That was comprehensive.
Well, if people in the audience haven't heard it before, so.
Are there questions for PJ? Lori?
Could you show me where the Trap Club is located in relation to this property? Do you know?
I believe it's down here. I don't know if someone from the audience is from the Trap Club.
If you pull up your aerial, you can see the trap club.
This one?
There it is, right there where your cursor was.
Over here?
Yeah, up top, right there.
Yep, and is that the tower, right to the right of that 79? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
I'm curious about what exactly the expectation is for him. I mean, is it because he doesn't provide detailed explanations? Is it because he doesn't show financial support for this development? Well, you know, everybody wants more explanation, and that would seem to be quite clear and straightforward. Is there a problem with Mr. Morris who doesn't get the message? Or is there a problem with the, various organizations and departments that are not making it clear what they expect of him? Can you clarify that at all?
Yeah. The city's requirements are a lot more clear and a lot more stringent, so they have those requirements they can fall back onto. The county does not. And he's doing everything through the county right now, and he has been consistent in saying that when he plats through the city, that all the concerns that everybody has will be addressed through the platting, because the city's platting requirements are stricter than ours and more comprehensive. As far as financial stuff, we can't really take that into account as a reason not to rezone.
Well, but so what we're doing is we're deferring to the city, and in essence, the city is saying, don't rezone this, because then we'll have to deal with this guy and in the platting process, and he may not provide the planning that's necessary? I mean,
I don't know if that's specifically their concern. I know just during the meeting that we had when he attended with all the county and staff, the city's focus is to the northeast, not down into this area. So they're diverting their resources to the northeast expansion of the city.
So is it a question of actually the rezoning and the development here? Is it a question of the type of development, or is it a question of his appropriate planning for the development.
Right now, with every one of the separate parcels that are out there, someone could come in and apply for a building permit on those. Going down to low-density residential, and he's looking at 40-acre minimums right now. Going down to low-density residential, he could create 3-acre lots and request building permits on all of those, and I think that is the concern.
Okay. And the city finds that objectionable. I mean, that's not part of their,
It doesn't match their future plan.
Yeah.
Yep, and it also is a concern for the highway department for access off of Old Folsom Road, because they're saying that that road is not adequate for the possible amount of traffic that could be there.
okay.
Nancy?
Well, as I was looking through this, I kind of get where the city is coming from, because they're very concerned that they're having someone come in that wants to develop that can't afford to put in the proper kinds of utilities, et cetera, that are required. And so they don't want it out there. And here's what I could see happening, because we've had this struggle of getting the information that everybody's been asking for. It sounds like it's not there. It seems like it's not there. So then he starts through this planning process after the rezone, and he still doesn't quite get what's required and doesn't provide what they want, and they're going to make sure that they get what they want, or that's it. Then that plating isn't approved. So then he's got something that is a large piece of acreage that is rezoned. Does he come back in and rezone it back to general ag? I mean, I think I see enough of and that's what the commission felt when we were talking. There was just not enough of a good plan presented to us that made us feel comfortable. It's sort of this out here, well, this is what I'm going to do, but how do you get there? And that is my concern with this. And you look through these things, they're really pretty normal for making a plan in setting up a residential area. It's the stuff being asked is pretty normal. So if you really are going to do that, you should have a good idea before you spend the money to rezone and replat and, and I don't know. I just go back to how long we've had that mess out there on 79, and we've had past history where we just don't get what we need from him. And I'm just not feeling comfortable with him being able to move forward.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions for PJ? Bill?
My only thought on that is, if I can't get something zoned, I'm not going to spend a lot of money developing some
I get that, yeah.
major plan that cost me $30,000 if I can't get it zoned to where I need to go. So I would look at getting it zoned the way it needs to be, or however the county will let me zone it, before I go spend money developing the plans to finish it. There's.
Yeah, I get that
Which
too.
is-
I've gone back and forth in my mind, but
Which
then.
comes first, the
Yeah.
egg or the chicken?
I know, but here's what's different. We have some past history that hasn't, that's.
I think he's
yeah.
tried to comply with everything we've asked for the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like he wants to do this, well, we won't let him do that, so he comes back with something else, and he keeps trying to comply with what we asked for. It looks to me like.
Sig?
I guess I kind of agree with you on some parts of it, the chicken or egg, but I mean, it's sort of like the current land use, and the future land use on the county's plan is one thing, without a compelling reason to change it. And to me, you provide that information to make it compelling to change, and without the compelling, regardless of the history, there should be some compelling reason to change when it doesn't meet our current or future land use. And we aren't getting that compelling information. And I think when you're talking about this kind of density, it's important to know what you're going to do with the roads and the infrastructure. So, and like if we defer to the planning process, then we take it out of the county's court. It's in the city's court. Do we want that? I would think the county planning commission would want to be a little more proactive on the planning.
I'm going to step aside from my position as chair and offer one comment. And that is, accord to Bill's, answer Bill's concern about how much preparation Mr. Moore should be required to make before we rezone for him. It seems to me that if people have come to us with a good, solid plan, and even if it's just, not heavily engineered drawings and stuff like that, but if it's just a good, solid plan, we let them rezone. I think that to say, I don't want to spend the money to do a good, solid plan, I just want to get it rezoned first, is a specious argument. So are there any other comments for PJ? And the applicant is not here. I would ask one more question then of PJ. At the last hearing we had with him, it became clear that he had not paid his real estate taxes on this piece of property. Do you know if that's been cleared
We
up
have
yet?
not followed up on it.
Okay, that concerns me as well. Okay, the applicant is not here. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? Nobody? Okay, is there further discussion? If not, Chair would entertain a motion.
I guess I'll move that, I'll move for approval of rezone RZ 1603 and comprehensive plan amendment CA 1602.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve rezone RZ 16-03 and comprehensive plan amendment CA 1602. Is there further discussion?
And I guess I'd like to comment that I guess the reason I would move for approval is because it's his property. He wants to do something with it. Why shouldn't we encourage a developer to spend his own money to develop it? Why does he have to wait for the city to come out there?
Okay.
It's a property rights issue.
And just so you know, it still goes before the Board of Commissioners twice, and then there's a 35-day waiting period, and part of that is for appeals after Board of Commissioners decision.
Thank you, PJ. Is there further discussion? It's Jim.
You talked about how we oftentimes rezone, with pretty primitive plans. I mean, somebody says, well, that's what I'm going to do, and, we don't have engineered plans and so forth. But that's usually for a piece of property that's like 5 acres. This is somewhat larger and could have more of an impact, and that's one thing I'm kind of concerned about. But I do share Lori's point of view here that, this guy wants to rezone it, and as Bill points out, unless it's rezoned, he's not going to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars doing various intricate development plans. So it seems to me to some extent that we're sort of obligated to, unless this was really an outrageous step, but obviously usage around it does not indicate that. So I'm sort of in favor of Lori's motion.
Is there further discussion? Sig?
I guess I'm not saying that it necessarily has to be the city, but I'm just saying, bring us a plan. It's a big enough tract, it's contrary to our zoning, I guess I see it a little bit differently. I'm not saying that, I know the city would probably say, if we go through the planning process, they are probably gonna push it's supposed to be city utilities and the regionalization of the utilities, and I know the state's pushing that on water systems. But I'm saying just bring us a plan. I don't care if burning your septic system, through incinerator systems, or, you have your own wells and all that, but bring us a plan.
And just to add on to that, it's fine for us to go ahead and approve this rezone, but then the guy's going to spend more money to go through the plating process. And we know it's questionable whether or not he can get that through because he doesn't have a plan. And so are we just letting him spend his money? At what point is that fair to him?
But is that our decision?
That's what,
you know?
I mean, my comment would be,
don't-
we don't know his finances. We don't know who his partners are. We don't know that. I think we're second guessing someone based on past history, and that's not our job.
It is unfortunate that the applicant is not here today to answer our questions.
Which is common. He has not been to the commission meetings to give us any kind of information. And that's not good. That doesn't look good.
To move to today's meeting was his request.
Oh, I'm sorry, he requested this
Yes.
today's meeting?
Yes. So he has his letters in the packet.
Well, and you heard nothing from him in terms of, I got
He
hit by a
had, he had
truck or
called the
something?
office to get a map of surrounding zoning. He didn't speak with me. He spoke with a couple other members of the office, but I haven't heard from him, no.
But I guess in his defense, he runs a small business. Something came up,
It's possible.
possibly.
Maybe he just wants to
Every
sell it.
single time? I'm sorry.
Well, he has been before us
Yes, he
on
has.
occasion, but.
We haven't had that. My experience in hearing this as a commissioner, we haven't had him there.
He's been to our meetings several times.
So,
And he's been to some lengthy meetings where he stuck around to be he was like the very last item on the agenda. And he stuck around to the end to present his arguments.
okay.
This whole thing about plans is what kind of bothers me. I mean, is it that he just doesn't get what a plan is, or is it not articulated clearly? What do you want really with a plan, Do you want something on the back of a, piece of white, typing paper, or, is that it, or is he simply, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't know what they mean by that, but it seems like that should be pretty easily spelled out, and it should be understandable to him and everyone else. Is he just being difficult, I guess is my question.
He has said during the meeting and several times to me that this is a rezone. Plans are not required. Plans
Oh,
will come out
okay.
when plating is done.
So that's his whole argument. You're not going to see a plan from me until,
I don't know about his whole argument, but
well,
that's.
that's
what he
a
has
significant part of his
Been
argument,
consistent
right?
with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's not defensive about it when he says it. He's very pragmatic about it.
Yeah. Well, an argument can be made there, I'm sure, but it does seem like to simply facilitate the process, he might have provided something on something.
If I recall, about 6 or 8 months ago, he did provide a plan. It was a very densely populated
Yeah.
area,
Yeah, he talked about,
and we
yeah, he did talk
rejected
about
that at that time.
But I think that plan included the area that he's removed from this request, I think.
It was 424 acres. All of this was included in it, and he broke it down into roughly 2,500 lots.
Okay.
There's no lots indicated of how it would break down, other than the legally described pieces that are there.
And that was essentially suburban residential, right? They were
The
very
last
small
request?
lots. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So he's altered his plan to low density.
Based on comments he was warned when he came in with that one by me, like, you're going from general agriculture, 40-acre minimum, down to suburban residential with, if conditions are right, you could be less than a half acre.
Right.
He wanted to do it anyway, because he can always ask. From that meeting, he gathered that, okay, well, I'll go up to the next level, which are 3 acres, which is low-density residential.
Which is consistent with the yellow, right, to the northeast?
Right to the northeast, this is the current zoning, and that's about 100 acres, and I know of 5 addresses on that, and I don't know if there's 5 houses yet. And then this is the future land use. The yellow is low-density residential, orange is suburban residential, and the light blue is planned unit development.
Beauty.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion on the table. It is to approve rezone RZ 16-03 and comprehensive plan amendment CA 16-02. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye.
Roll call.
Let's have a voice vote, please.
I'm going to abstain out of confusion and frustration.
I think you can have it. No.
Yes. Oh,
No.
sorry. Oh, hold on, Lori. Sorry. Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, a tie vote.
I vote.
3. Is it a tie?
It's a tie.
The tie.
I'm going to break the tie. I'm going to change my vote to no.
Okay.
So the motion to approve has failed. On to item 16.
Let's get set up here. It's a very large file here, hold on. Okay. Item 16 is telecommunication facility permit 1601 to allow for a 106-foot stealth monopine pole and equipment shelter in a general commercial district. The applicant and agent of Verizon Wireless were Brian Cabot from Buell Consulting as the agent. He is here in the audience today. The size of the subject property is 21.94 acres, and the owner is Joseph Theberg, and I believe he is in the office as well. The existing land use of this property, it's currently vacant. There's nothing there, but there is a conditional use permit on the property that's been around for some years to allow for storage units on the property. It's just never been done. Again, the purpose of this request is to allow a 106-foot stealth monopine pole, an equipment shelter in a general commercial district, and with the overall height of 115 feet. And that's with the inclusion of the lightning rod. Telecommunication facilities are listed as item 30 under section 209B in general commercial districts. Unlike other districts where there's permitted and conditional uses, in general commercial, what would normally be a permitted use is a purpose of general commercial and then a list of uses. Telecommunications facilities is listed in that list. In addition to that, general commercial also has a list of uses that are conditional. General commercial, since telecommunication facility is not listed or is listed in the purpose list, it's not listed as a conditional use, therefore one is not required. So only a telecommunication facility permit is required and a building permit after and if it's approved. General description, Verizon Wireless, again, the agent is Buell Consulting, is proposing a 106-foot stealth monopine. The addition of the 106-foot stealth monopine would fill a gap in the cellular communication signals excuse me, in that area of Pennington County. Since 2008 and up till 2014, previous requests were made by Verizon to place a communication monopine pole and equipment shelter in the area. It started across the street looking at the fire station, then ultimately in a property directly to the east that the current landowner also owns. Both of those requests were denied. In 2015, after listening to what the commissioners have said, they came back with a different proposal on this general commercial lot, which is directly to the west of the original lot request, and came back with a 199-foot stealth monopine tower. The Planning Commission voted on a motion to approve that tower. The motion failed due to a 2-2 tie vote. On July 17, 2015, Verizon filed an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision, but ultimately withdrew that appeal, and that was on August 12, 2015, from my understanding, because they were going to research into doing a smaller tower. A lot of times what have come up from the commissioners is concerns about other properties being of higher priority or other properties being available. Also, one of the questions was, could it be done on Forest Service land? There's about 2.5 pages of comment from our Forest Service representative, but ultimately comes up to no. We're not putting it on Forest Service land. It is not the highest priority that our zoning ordinance requires. It's actually priority 3 out of 5. However, priority 3 states on property zoned general commercial. Priority 2 is on property zoned or if not zoned, characterized predominantly by industrial use. There's no industrial use in that area where the applicant says would be appropriate for the tower. The highest priority is on existing towers or other structures without increasing the height of other towers or structures. The applicant has shown that there are towers in the area, however, they're further away. If you look at here, this is what's submitted by the applicant, showing where the proposed location is, and a tower to the east and a tower to the west. And if this tower was approved, the blue, I believe, is the coverage. If it was approved, that's what the coverage area would look like. Of course, it wasn't, as the applicant has stated, the 199-foot tower would have increased the coverage, but they challenged their, I believe, engineers to try and come up with something suitable. And I believe ultimately the engineers said a taller tower would be better, but this is what they're doing. And the 106-foot tower is consistent with other towers that have been approved in the county. There's two, I'm trying to get to them here. Sorry, this is a long PowerPoint. We'll get there. So this is a rendition of what the property looks like. I wouldn't say today because it's the same picture I've been using for a while, but that horse is very popular. This is what it looks like now. That's what it would look like with a 106-foot tower. This is a different view heading into Rapid City. This is what it looks like now. That's what it would look like with a 106-foot tower. This is their plans. As you can see, they'll be coming off of Highway 44. It's an existing approach, about 19 feet wide. It is dirt. Then they would basically build over this easement over to where the compound is, and it would have suitable parking. It would have a 6-foot chain link fence with 1 foot of barbed wire, which meets our requirements. They're also looking to screen the north side of the tree with extra evergreens so that it's not as visible from the road. This is one of those other towers that's approved in the county. It's a 105-foot stealth monopine. It was approved in 2010 by the Planning Commission. There's not a really good picture of this, but the tower is right here. This is on Big Bend Road. Basically from the road, because of the elevation around it, you can't really see it. It blends in very well. The applicant submitted considerable amount of information with this packet. There's some information in there from their legal counsel. There's also a letter from a real estate agent in the area that was requested to look at properties in the area, because what has come up repeatedly during the meetings was that property values were going to go down. So the applicant, I'm assuming, did this to try and head off those questions. Ultimately, what was found by the representative that they had look at the property values was that there was no significant change in the area. Anticipating any questions from the Planning Commission and even the Board of Commissioners if it goes up to that level, I asked Shannon, the Director of Equalization, to look at it. This is actually his report and for the first tower and the second report for the second tower, and he essentially concurs with the conclusion that there's no significant evidence to show that property values would actually be affected because of a tower placed in that area. The request for comment was sent out to the different departments. The only item of note that came back was, well, two, I guess. One is from the ordinance officer, is there's still debris on the property. It was there prior during the 2015 request. It's a pile of junk and wood and tires. One of the conditions of telecommunication facility permit 1501 from last year was that this had to be cleaned up before a building permit was done. With the loss of our ordinance officer and other priorities, this was not something that we addressed. It's being addressed again now with this conditional use permit and with current ordinance officer. If this telecommunication facility permit is not approved, we're going to move forward with making sure that that stuff comes off the property, which the landowner said that they would do. The other item that came back was from the Community Planning and Development Services. Again, this is from the City of Rapid City because it is within their 3-mile platting jurisdiction. They are not platting, but if it's in the jurisdiction, we route it over to them. And essentially, they wrote that the proposed placement of telecommunication facility tower at this location is in conflict with the city's future land use, and any use of the property must be designed to ensure that it does not interfere with South Dakota Highway 44, functioning as a principal arterial street. However, with the city zoning and purposes for general commercial, it does meet our requirements as stated in our current ordinance. I'll just, as I have done several times with this request, I'm going to read section 316 HD, which appears in our zoning ordinance. Notwithstanding the above, the administrator or planning commission may approve any site located within an area in the above listed list of priorities, provided the administrator or planning commission finds that the proposed site is in the best interest of health, safety, and welfare of the county and its residents and will not have a deleterious effect on the nature and character of the existing uses of the surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of telecommunication facility permit 1601 with 11 conditions.
Thank you, PJ.
You're welcome.
Questions for PJ?
I-
Yes,
I
Nancy?
do have one. You know, I always zero in on public safety, and I just, one of the things that was brought up was the concern about the frequencies for the emergency people. Can I have an assurance that, about those frequencies? Because we've had trouble in the Hill City area with something with their cell tower and some other things. I just don't know how we're sure that that's not conflicting.
Well, I'm not an electrical engineer, but what I can speak to is, what Denny was asking for is if you build a tower that emergency services can co-locate on that tower as long as they don't interfere. We haven't had any complaints as of yet on any existing towers that we permit through.
That's not what I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
If you look under the Forest Service.
Yeah.
They express concern, let's see, to be on
Which page are you
page
on?
10. They express concern about the frequencies that are currently used by county highway, county fire, county search and rescue, county emergency management, and the National Forest on Seth Bullock. And they are worried because of where that is located, that this frequency could interrupt that. And there have been some cases where we've had those problems, or at least I'm told we are by the fire service and
Might be-
emergency management.
Might be a question best answered by the applicant.
Okay, that'd be good. I'd like to know that. That's a concern for me.
I did bring up a good point that I forgot to mention. There were 2 letters of concern that were received by our office, one on March 11th at 10:15 a.m. from Joe Radigan, and again this morning at 7:48 a.m. by the same submitter.
Got those. Thank you very much. Are there further questions for PJ? Would the applicant like to come up, please, and answer Commissioner Troutman's question?
Yeah.
Morning, I'm Jay Littlejohn. I'm an attorney. I represent Verizon Wireless, and I have represented them and their predecessors since 1988. I'm also not a frequency engineer, but I have talked to those fellows so many times that I know the answer. First of all, it's a very low-power system, 40 watts per channel. And as long as you're not in close proximity being within 50 feet of the antennas, there's been no interference caused by our client's system. Paging has been an issue in the past, and if you've had interference, it doesn't surprise me because paging operates on much taller towers, and it's a burst at a much higher power.
Yeah.
That's not the case for cellular. I mean, these systems are all over the place. The antennas are co-located on water towers where there are police and fire and ambulance antennas in close proximity. And I saw that one of the conditions was that we be required to allow public safety agencies to co-locate on the tower. We do it commonly and without charge.
And I'm aware that you do, so that was not the issue. I just know that they have had communications issues because of cell towers and the paging. It was Hill City and Keystone area.
In paging, though, not in.
But if that's the only way that those volunteer fire departments and emergency management are connected?
No, I'm sorry. The interference is caused by paging companies, private paging companies, not to the paging services. So you need to have the high power in order to output from our antennas. Our antennas are much lower power. The paging systems will not be interfered with by Verizon Wireless.
Yeah, see, that's what maybe I misunderstand, but I've heard it frequently. And so what they have not been able to do is do any digital. They are doing analog on some of those places because of problems.
I would be surprised, but if you would like to impose a condition where we obtain a propagation, not a propagation study,
Just a connection
intermodulation
to
study that shows that where an RF engineer does it, but I can tell you that it's never happened. Those kinds of requests get funneled through our office. Might happen, for instance, if it were on a rooftop or on a water tower where the antennas are on the same physical structure, so they're closer than 50 feet. But I think the setbacks on this are, 388 feet is the smallest amount of setback, and that's from the edge of the property. So as long as nobody puts a tower right next to this monopine, it's not going to be an issue.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for the applicant? No, thank you very much.
Could I just make one
Sure.
correction to the? So, Mr. Conover's report obviously was very thorough, and we're just here to answer questions. But that opinion on property values, that was from a South Dakota certified registered independent appraiser. It wasn't from a real estate agent. It was a,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Would anyone from the audience like to comment on this issue?
Morning.
Hi, could you identify yourself,
Sure,
please,
I'm
for the
David
record?
Bradsky. I'm also an attorney, if that matters, but I live right across the street from this, and I've been there since 1990. I've got, 40 acres approximately that I pay taxes on, substantially high taxes, or very high taxes. And, I don't really give much credence to an opinion of an appraiser or a realtor. It's what a willing buyer is willing to pay and a willing seller is willing to sell for. And, anytime you put this kind of a thing across the street from a residential place, it's gonna diminish your property values. If somebody wants to assure me that mine's not gonna go down, then I want that guarantee in writing. And, when I go to sell my property, then maybe sell one or Verizon can make up the difference. What bugs me the most about this whole deal is this is like the 5th time we've been here. And I would like this commission to take judicial notice of everything that's been submitted in all the years past, all the letters. My dad's written them. He lives across the street too. And this has been denied every time. And here we are again. I mean, how many times do these people have to be told no? This is ridiculous. I got better things to do than come here and complain about a cell tower going in across the street from me. They've lowered it. Okay, great. I don't have any problems with my cell coverage, and I live across the street. They say this is necessary. I would like to know for sure why Verizon is pushing this so hard. I think there's something else going on. Maybe it's income that they're gonna get from leasing the space on the tower. Who knows if that's gonna cause problems down the road with paging. They can tell you whatever they want to today, and then when this thing's up, you gotta live with it. Another thing to think of is, we got helicopters flying into the fire station. People are falling off Falling Rock all the time. Is this gonna cause a problem with that? Maybe it will, maybe it won't, depends on your pilot. And then it conflicts with the city's future land use. I know if I wanna go do something, I gotta listen to the city. I'm within 3 miles. So, same thing with the fire station and the Forest Service. I object to it. My dad wants me to stay on the record. He objects to it. He couldn't be here because he can't walk very good. And, if he were here, you wouldn't want to hear what he had to say anyway. So, anyway, I hope that you deny it one more time and that we don't have to come back. This is ridiculous. Thanks.
Excuse me, are
Madam
there any
Chair.
questions for Mr.
I have a
Bradsky?
question.
Sure.
Mr. Bradsky, I'm kind of curious. Now, you said this doesn't affect your cell service, which is just fine. Are you of the opinion that any kind of infrastructure development, which is what this is, should only affect you in a positive way, that it shouldn't affect other people, that it has to affect you in a positive? I'm kind of confused by what it strikes me as sort of an unneighborly attitude. Now, I realize that you may have good cell service, but there may be people who travel that road from out of state and so forth, and who maybe don't have landline service, who would be served by it. And this is what I find, it doesn't strike me that you would be that unneighborly.
Well, if you're insinuating that I'm being selfish, I'm not. I
Okay.
drive that road multiple times a week to go to Deadwood, and I have no problems with my cell phone. And
Well, why would Verizon put that up there?
exactly, why don't we ask them?
Well, you mean they just want to spend the money for the pure joy
No,
of it?
it's a business decision. You think they're doing it just for you, so you can drive up there and have a clear cell phone signal all the way up? No, it's a money decision. You think Verizon is a billion-dollar company?
Well, clarify that for me, I don't get it. What do you mean? They're just, shareholders in Verizon might be upset if they just are spending money with no purpose.
That's it, exactly. It's a money decision for them. It's got nothing to do with anything else. If I wanted a cell phone tower up there to improve my cell service because my internet is too slow, they're not gonna give that to me.
That's above my pay grade, I guess. I don't get that, but
Can-
anyway.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can I ask a
Lori.
question? You said that you live just to the north of this property.
Right, I'm right across the street.
You're right on, would you bring up the zoning map, somebody?
My property all borders Highway 44 right there.
Okay, so are you the low density residential? Because it shows limited ag and low density residential on that map. Are you the whole thing there?
And I'm not even sure what I'm zoned.
Because it would be, you're in that stuff,
I've got that whole green area there where she's circling.
the limited ag? Okay,
No, it's not limited ag. It's probably low density.
there's one little spot of low density residential and then it's surrounded by limited ag.
I'm probably low density.
Okay, and you're right on the
I'm not
highway there?
limited ag because I pay pretty high taxes.
Okay, and you're right, so you're right on the highway, right across from this, okay? Thank you.
Anything else?
Are there any questions more for Mr. Bratsky? Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Would anyone else like to comment? Yes, sir. Please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Dr. Eric Swanson. I'm the property on the west side. I'm the property on the south side. And I go all the way down to here on Joe on three side, or all the way down here. Approximately 100 acres on the surrounding two sides of this property. That, again, I've been here. This is the 6th or 8th time that I've done this also. I'm also on the Johnson Siding Fire Department up there, so maybe I can answer some of your questions on the fire department. So Verizon wants to put this tower in due to the service coverage in the area. I walked out my front porch this morning. I got 3-bar signal. I called Donnie Patton, who is Mr. Bradsky's brother-in-law, and he lives right here, right above the yellow. He's also opposed to this. Joe Radigan, who lives right here, is opposed to this. Right here is Heidi Crawford. She's opposed to it. This is over here where Mr. Bradsky is, the father Bradsky. He's opposed to it. The Frosts are over here. I talked to them. He's also on the fire department. The son is. They're opposed to this. So the only person that I know that's in favor of this is Mr. Theberg, who is going to receive cash. And Verizon themselves, again, they're doing this to make money, has been stated. Cell phone coverage, again, I got 3 bars when I walk out of there. Emergency services, my fire department was paged out for the 3 youths that fell up there. You probably heard that on the news. The page that was received through Rapid City County Fire was done through the kid's cell phone. Their position was located through triangulation of the existing cell phone service. I have the coordinates on my phone if you want to see it, because I received my paging through the phone up there. So there's existing cell phone coverage is not an issue. Emergency services coverage up there is not an issue. It already exists. It already functions. It's already working well. This tower is built for 2 reasons, to make money and to provide the services, and what we have already existing functions just fine. The comments that there's not going to be any deleterious issues built with the cell phone tower, I don't know anybody that has a lot or a home that has somebody build a cell phone tower across the way and say, yippee, skippy, now we got a cell phone tower to look at. Use of this is, again, is for driving up and down Highway 44, as you were saying. As far as I can tell, there's hundreds of millions of dollars done in advertising where you shouldn't be using your phone as you're driving, especially on a road of this nature, which is very tenuous. Lots of wildlife. I see at least 1 animal, 1 deer hit every week between my home and Canyon Lake Park, which is approximately where my dental office is. We're dispatched multiple times for car accidents and everything in the Dark Canyon area because of the roads. You shouldn't be using your cell phone in this car anyway, on this road, in a car anyway, and especially texting, which you see all the time up there now as it is. We even had a fatality, if you remember the Munoz girl, several years ago, driving this road, using her cell phone, and she crashed and drowned herself where the new cell phone tower was placed up on Big Bend because there was service there. So, added cell phone service on this road is just not necessary because it promotes bad behavior, and the existing service that we have is already there. I mean, the only thing that's going to be done is a 100-foot cell phone service is going to be stuck on this corner. If you go up there, and I encourage the commissioners to go up there and look at it, this is right on the highway. You will be able to see it on this scenic byway, which is what it's been designated through Rimrock Highway. And there are better places to hide this. The reason this site is chosen, it's right on the road. It's very easy for Verizon to get to. It's very easy to get the utilities to. It's the cheapest position that they can place this tower, but it's the most detrimental to anybody that lives up there. We moved to that area due to the rural nature, due to the scenic area with the pine trees and everything else. That's the reason people want to live there, living on the scenic byway. Artificial pine tree is not going to be a scenic addition to that area.
Thank you. Are there questions for Dr. Swanson? No, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue?
Madam Chair, could I respond, or should I?
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to hear from this.
Yes, please.
First, the question of the reason why it's going there. It's pretty simple. That's the area that's zoned general commercial. It's right on the highway, but it's a higher priority use under the county's own zoning scheme. That's the reason. I was a little bit surprised to see Dr. Swanson get up. I've been involved in this site since it was originally brought in. I think we've been working on it 8 years, 7 years, you've seen it. Dr. Swanson had, in fact, said that he would lease to us. The reason we didn't go there is because the price was too high. Mr. Taberge is being much more reasonable in the terms, and that's the only reason. We'd love to go elsewhere. We'd love to go further off the road if we could. We'd love to go on the Forest Service road if we could. The fact is our options are very limited by your code. You've seen the map that shows the RF propagation difference. Because of where the canyon is, there may well be service there in that particular location or in the immediate vicinity of the tower. But it's undeniable that the service will be improved in a much broader area if we're allowed to build this site. Yes, it's been a long time. A lot has happened in the last 8 years. When I first was here, I think that, maybe a small minority of us even had a cell phone. There were years when I represented this company, I myself didn't have a cell phone. Now that's not the case. My parents who live in North Dakota, they don't even have a regular landline phone. They have just a wireless phone. The use of wireless phones has absolutely gone off the charts. I've used them when hiking with my Boy Scouts as a backup emergency device. Yes, you're not supposed to use your phone while driving. People wear headsets if they have to. We encourage people not to use even a headset to drive, but there are other people in the car riding with you. They may be using the phone. Or you can pull over, get your directions, get your map, find out where you're going to go. Call emergency services if your spare is flat as well, or if, God forbid, you should go off the road and into the ditch. If you don't have service, you can't make those calls. This is a very important service, and you're absolutely right. We would not build a site that costs this kind of money, both to build and every month for rent that we pay to Mr. Taberge, if we didn't need it, if our customers didn't need it. They wouldn't send me here to try to explain the application, to plead with you all, to just treat us the same as you've treated the other applicants that have had other similar-sized monopines approved elsewhere in the county, when there are houses that are much closer than any of the houses that are close to this site. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Nancy.
And I hope I don't murder the name of the landowner. Is it Taberge? Is that okay? Do you currently have a contract with
Yes.
him? How long have you had that contract?
When was it signed, do you think? Maybe?
September, October.
Yeah,
Okay.
quite some time.
So
It's pending
you've
your-
got a financial commitment there, and I think
Oh,
you.
no, the contract, of course, is contingent upon your approval. So if you
Okay.
decide not to approve it.
Okay, that's what I needed to
Then
know.
we would not have to pay any rent for the site, pardon me.
Okay.
We also wouldn't have to pay the construction costs, although chances are we would be, well, we're not going to go away because the customers need the service.
Are there further questions? Bill?
In comparison to your coverage maps, it appears that the only additional coverage you're gonna get is right down in the canyon.
Yeah.
There's a little surrounding that area, but the majority of it is right in the bottom of that canyon, where there's probably 10 houses at most.
The cellular is both a coverage and a capacity issue, but yes, we can't go as far as we could if we could build a 200-foot tower, traditional tower, or even a 165-foot monopine. That would be the ideal. The plan is to build this site, determine exactly what our customers need at that point, and then see whether other sites of a much shorter size can be done in years down the road. We're left with no other options, really, other than to build this site and another short site, or maybe two, to accomplish the same coverage objective. But that's an undeniable consequence of building shorter towers, is you have to build more of them.
I remember having this conversation, but it doesn't seem like it was with you. But the conversation was this: there is a strong possibility that in the future, cell service will be going through a satellite and not through all of these towers.
No.
They do it in the third world countries because they don't have the money to build the infrastructures.
Well, no, sat phones are incredibly expensive. Third world countries use a network of much taller towers spread out across the landforms to maximize the number of callers that can go on a particular tower.
I've had
It's a minimum
friends who
amount of
didn't,
infrastructure.
maybe they didn't understand how it was, but that isn't what they said.
The satellite technology was tried in the 80s and early 90s as called the Iridium system. Like I said, I've been doing this for a few years. It's called the Iridium system. But the cost of putting enough satellites up in space to be able to provide coverage was just cost prohibitive. Other than, like my son is deployed and he can call on a sat phone in case of emergencies. Other than those extreme circumstances, like with government contractors, where there isn't this sort of government-developed infrastructure, the set,
My son was in Afghanistan.
there just isn't service.
When my son was in Afghanistan, that's really how they communicated back home.
Yes, if they're on deployment and there's no other choice, yes, but it's a fortune to use.
I mean, he
sat
could
phone.
call daily, any time of the day. So it wasn't, it must, and it actually came through, some of the people in his unit were Black Hills Power, and that's why they got that, is it was connected through, and
Right,
it
and they
was
didn't have to-
very good.
They didn't have to be near the service, but it's a limited, there's a limited window of use, and, it's mostly cost prohibitive. I mean, if you could have sat phones, people would, because, for
We might be
instance,
talking about two
we
different
hiked in the
Yeah.
Black Hills Forest, or up in the Black Elk Forest, right, next to.
Black Elk Wilderness?
Yeah, Black Elk Wilderness, right. And there were places in there where we didn't have a signal. It would have been nice to have a sat phone, but, way too expensive. It's just not, it's not $20 a month and unlimited calling to use that kind of a service. So it's just not, not a viable solution. Most importantly, though, it's the capacity of the system. So many people have their phones. The reason why you've noticed your devices slowing down is because people are using their phones. And, you see the spinning wheel. Building these facilities will help to improve those data speeds, and that's, one of the ways that people are now starting to use these devices more often. Not only do people have flip phones, but they carry smartphones and tablets and that sort of thing. And so it's not strictly a coverage question, it's also a capacity question.
So I just want to clarify what you said earlier. This is the first, and then you'll fill in with others around it?
That's if needed. I mean, the whole thing is based upon need. So we would come back and instead of ask to increase the height of this site, we would ask to build another one that is probably somewhere where there's no coverage. Or where the coverage is much more limited. But that could be years from now. When was the last time we were here with an application?
Just a year ago, I was heading out towards 385 and using my phone the whole way out there, so I'm still trying to figure out how that's such a need. I know I was driving, but I was on my Bluetooth.
We don't encourage that, and unless I have my headset in, I certainly don't.
Yeah, Bluetooth, yeah.
Another question. How do they maintain these poles when they're 160 feet in the air? I know the one out on Sheridan Lake Road, after the 80-mile-an-hour wind's got a lot of branches missing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they depending on the weight of it, mostly it's done with climbing pegs and climbing gear. They have the rather, I guess they'd call it uncomplimentary term, tower monkey. There are guys that make a living climbing these things. There's pegs on the way up, and there's pulley systems. If they need to, though, they'll bring a tower crane out to the site, and they'll do it. I don't think we have a monopine in this area. I know we did one in a tourist area in north of the Twin Cities around the Brainerd area recently, and that was done, the construction was done with a tower crane, just a truck crane that pulls up and hoists it up, and they take care of it in the driveway.
There's one on Sheridan Lake Road,
And there's one at Big Bend.
Yeah, I know, I drove by them yesterday, they're,
sparsely populated branches.
yeah, they need more, the one of them certainly needs more branches, but the other thing that's happened is the technology on these stealth design poles has really changed over the years. If those were built 5 years ago, it was probably a completely different design. Sort of like my Christmas tree, and now that when I don't have a real one, looks a lot more like a real tree than the one that my parents had. It was the bottle brush.
Jim?
Yeah, I have a question about, these gentlemen talk about the excellent cell service they receive from Verizon where they're located. Where are they getting their service? What tower?
Actually, that particular site, here, I don't know if I can go back and forth on this or not. Boy, I would have to guess that they're getting it from a site that's way down the road, way much closer to town, called the Foghorn Cleghorn site. Do you have the address for that site, Brian?
It's on the map.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
Way to
Yeah, there is
green one on the right.
Yeah,
Foghorn Cleghorn, which is close, near Cleghorn Canyon or something, or?
Right.
I don't know, it's depicted on the,
right there by Canyon Lake.
Yeah, it's just across the street from
okay.
Canyon Lake.
yeah,
It's the flagpole.
Yeah.
it's a flagpole, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a flag, it's a
In the-
big flagpole, but it's a
In
flagpole.
the absence of that, yeah, I know what you mean, right, by the old Cleghorn Fire Department.
Right.
Yeah.
In the absence of that tower, these gentlemen would have no service.
Right.
You know, as I go to the park, I find it really objectionable, that big, tall tower there that serves for cell people. I mean, I'm frustrated by the gentleman's narrowness on this issue. And I understand why they object to this, but it does not seem to me to be that objectionable a presence. I just, and it seems like there's been some compromise here on the part of of Verizon. But, you know, I guess it just that we all have to kind of kick in and share in this process. And the people at Canyon Lake who are there every day, look up on that big pole, and yeah, it'd be a presence that we don't like particularly, but it helps provide service from Dr. Swanson and from Mr. Bradsky. And this is ultimately what it's all about. And it's too bad that they live directly across from this, but it seems like that this is a presence and a need that is not going to go away. And anyway, I was just curious because, you know, they are getting their service from someone, from a tower somewhere, and someone is suffering, if you want to call it that, the presence of that tower in order for them to get their service. So, and I think they perhaps should be more neighborly, if you will, in extending that to others, because I cannot believe that Verizon is just putting this up for the sake of spending the money. It doesn't make any sense to me, so. Anyway,
That actually reminds,
those were
I'm
comments,
sorry.
not questions, I guess, but I was curious about where the service was coming from for those gentlemen.
That reminds me of one other thing, and it's included in my letter. Because I've been doing this for so long, there's a site in North Oaks, Minnesota, and I got the permission to put the monopole there. It's not a disguised monopole. When the North Oaks is, you know, the former governor lives there, and it's, you know, it's a big deal if you live there. I don't live there. But I live about a mile from there. But when the pole was first going up and everybody came to the room and everybody was concerned about what it would do to property values and what it would look like and that sort of thing, we had, you know, we also got an appraiser, he had the same opinion, you know, he didn't go the extra step that the staff here has done, which is to ask your own director of equalization whether there is an impact on property values, and the director has no dog in the fight, and he certainly concurs with the independent appraisal. So when we're sitting here now and we're looking at this and we're thinking about what's it gonna look like, you know, yes, it's a big deal, and we'll probably notice it for, you know, if you approve it for some time. And then it will fade into the background, just the same as water towers. One time when it's first going up, so, oh, what's that? And then it's up, and then we don't look at it anymore. It's part of it fades into the background. And it's not even designed to look like anything except a water tower. Same with power lines. Those high power transmission lines go through. We wouldn't deny anybody the power lines, the right to electricity, because they could use a generator. You know, the power serves a larger group of us, and we kind of put up with the infrastructure. You have to have the antennas where the people are, and that's why we're trying to build it here. In North Oaks, that went up. People complained, and I've got pictures from when I first worked on that site a decade or more ago, and where it is now. Went from 1 or 2 houses in the development to the entire thing being developed. That not one effect on the home development, on the property development, or any of the land values around there.
Yes.
I just want to respond to what you said. Minnesota's topography is considerably different than ours, and for you to create, granted, I'm not an engineer, this is just my brain's working, but when you put something up on a flat area, it covers a much bigger area, and you're not going to have to add more. And for me, your statement that, well, this is the beginning, and then we will probably be adding more. In the Black Hills, anyone who comes here from New York City and thinks they are going to have cell coverage everywhere in the hills, I mean, that just doesn't happen, and we know that. And I'm concerned that, okay, we have coverage that is pretty good. Now we're going to get coverage so that we can get into the valleys. And we start a precedence, and I don't like that. I don't like it at all.
I think the precedent has been set years ago when the other 2 towers, other 2 monopines of a similar height were approved by the county and were built. The precedence was set. All we're trying to do is to ask to be treated the same as the other 2 providers were that built those towers. That's all. We don't want anything more. We just want the same treatment that the others got.
So those other 2 are not yours?
No.
Okay. I don't like them either.
Are there any more questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Swanson?
Yeah, I just need to respond because my integrity was put into question there, that they said they wanted to, that I was talking with them and accepted a money figure. They talked to me for 2 years, and I debated back and forth. And out of consideration for my neighbors and the property values and the area that is up there, I turned them down. I did not go into a contract. There was never any kind of agreement for any amount of money of any sort. Yes, they were there and walked my property 2-3 times. I was there with them, finding out what they wanted to do, and ultimately I just told them no, I wouldn't accept their offers. Second of all, he stated that this is zoned for that area. My front 25 acres, which is closest to the road, and the subject property were both part of the old sawmill that was up there, the Potter Sawmill, if you remember. Mm-hmm. We were told that heavy industrial development is not allowed up there. At the same time, Potter Sawmill and Ham Sawmill on Sheridan Lake Road was turned from the old heavy industrial zoning into the current zoning. That request was done, and the rezoning was done through the county's desire, not mine, not Joe's, and not the guys who own Ham Sawmill. They did not want industrial development of any type up there, and we had to negotiate to the current existing zoning. Mine's PUD in the front, his is general commercial, for the purpose of putting up the storage sheds. This area was never designed to have heavy industrial zoning, or heavy industrial or industrial type of development. That was the county's request. due to the issues that are, you know, poo-pooed, that this neighborhood is too nice to put this type of development up there. This is too nice to have industrial development, but this is right back to exactly what we're doing now. So those issues need to be known as far as the zoning, so.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address this? Yes, sir, please come forward.
My name is Joe Radigan. I'm one of the residents to the south of the subject area. And you received emails from me regarding the density of residences in that area. But I also wanted to comment about Mr. Coleman's questions about coverage in the area. We actually have some increased coverage from Verizon's competitor. You know, CenturyLink has put DSL up there, so that when I'm walking around on my property and I'm listening to the news or something and a data transfer, I'm on my wireless and going through CenturyLink, which all the residences can do up there. So we have tremendous capacity. And in fact, if their cell is down, I can get phone calls through my wireless. So, you know, the other technologies are coming into play
Yeah, that's
and are
my
increasing.
Right, yeah.
And there's no tower for
That's a
that.
function of your landline arrangement. yeah.
No, that's not, well, yeah, sure, that's a landline.
Right.
Right, but it's all buried.
Right.
No one can see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Radigan? Nope, I guess not. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Ma'am? Oh, PJ, would you like to?
No, it's up for her. She sent an email that I don't have, so I'm going to pull up the website she's requesting for her.
I'm Heidi Crawford. I own the land that this cell phone tower would practically be over. It's right next to my property line where the proposed location is. And it's a little bit insulting to say, well, the neighbors are being selfish by saying we have cell phone coverage. I don't think we're being selfish. I think we're stating a fact. And PJ is bringing up Verizon's own map that if you are a potential customer or a customer of Verizon's, you can go and see, is there going to be coverage in this area? You guys can see for yourself. We aren't being selfish. We're saying if we have to look at a giant, ugly, cell phone tower that absolutely would affect my property values. I'm telling you, my kids would be playing under this cell phone tower. You asked about the maintenance of it, the branches falling off. I don't want my kids playing in an area where some branches are gonna fall off and hit my kid when they're out in their backyard playing. You said you don't like looking at that flagpole. Well, what if somebody put that in your backyard? I would get zero benefit from this. We already have cell phone coverage all the way up and down that highway. You don't have to take my word for it, but Verizon's not being like this, oh, let's benefit the community. This is about money. This is about let's further pad our pockets. Right now, they're probably renting from other cell phone towers. That's why we have the coverage that we have. Well, that's their problem. That shouldn't be, you can just go put up cell phone towers wherever you want instead of renting from other places and do something that's detrimental to the landowners. This is emotional for me. My husband gets up at 6 o'clock. He's gone by 6 o'clock in the morning. He's not home till 6 o'clock at night, at least. He went to 3 of my son's basketball games this year. He pays for that land that my family lives on. It is a big deal. We have paid that for that property to live out of town so our kids can play out there, so we can have a beautiful piece of property that will hopefully increase in value as we grow older. And to have Verizon come and put a huge cell phone tower right on our property line to benefit them when it isn't going to benefit the betterment of the community, that pisses me off, frankly. And if that is selfish, then fine, I am selfish, but we work our tails off for our little tiny piece of the American pie, and then for Verizon to come and take our property values and our view, the view to the north and the west would be blocked by that tower. I don't think that's fair. And I understand sometimes you have to take one for the team. I get that. This is not taking one for the team. There is cell phone coverage all the way up and down there. And I sent it to PJ. I'm not sure why we can't get it up.
I'm not sure where it is on here.
Okay, well, I have it on my cell phone. I'm gonna pass my cell phone down. If you go to Verizon's website, you can see right here, it's vzwmap.verizonwireless.com. Here is West Highway 44. I'll pass this around so you guys can get a good look at this, okay? And then if you scroll through my photos, I zoomed out, just so you guys can make sure I'm not like just zooming in on one area that shows coverage. Keep zooming out. I have 3 photos. You can see Pactola on this map. You can see Rapid City on this map. Here's West Highway 44, and we're 4 miles up, so we're to the very, we're gonna be at the beginning of this road. You guys can look, they show perfect coverage in the area that this cell phone tower would service. They say, well, you're gonna have, increased data speed. Do we really want people being able to look at Facebook faster on the highway? I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. We were just in Las Vegas last weekend. My cell phone worked faster here than it did in Las Vegas. And I'm sure it's because of how many people use it. But, so maybe that would be the only argument, is so you can get a little bit faster, more data or whatever. I don't think this location, it's on a scenic highway. It's going to be obnoxious. It's right off the road. It's not near as good coverage as the one on Sheridan Lake Road would even be. This is the scenic highway, and I don't think there's any need for that whatsoever. I'll pass this around.
Is this the map you were talking about?
Yeah.
It's generating, it's gonna take a little bit.
Okay, so there's a search. There should be a search box that comes up so you can, because if you just click on it, it takes forever. There should be, enter your street address. So you can put West Highway 44 and then you can navigate. And then zoom out and you can see it. So either they're giving you guys, so this is what's happened. They gave you guys one map and their customers are seeing a different map. That's zoomed out, this is zoomed in.
Okay.
Yeah, complete coverage.
You can mark whatever you want or move around whatever you want.
Okay. Thank you, PJ. Okay, so you guys can see it up on here too. So this is Verizon's part where they're saying that they do have coverage. Here's West Highway 44 coming out of Rapid City. We're 4 miles up, so maybe we're about right here. That cell phone tower wouldn't provide any more service than what is already there. Maybe a little faster data, but there's already coverage. The places where it shows there is not coverage is clear over here by 385. Here is Pactola. In these areas, there's some dead spots, but a tower right here would not improve the coverage clear over there. So if we're being selfish, absolutely, we don't think Verizon should have their pockets padded anymore on the backs of our property values and at the detriment of the beauty of the scenic highway being compromised.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Are there questions? No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, here's your phone.
You'd be terrible to leave it after all this.
Remember, you have service. You want to keep that.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Elise.
My name is Elise Radigan. Joe's obviously my husband. I want to just briefly address the neighborliness issue. We're a ways away from the highway. You can't see our home from the highway, but we work very hard to keep things tidy and looking nice. We initially owned the home that Crawford's bought, and there was the trash that you see on the slides that was there that was very visible from the home. So before we sold it, we asked Joe to please clean that up. It would make a big difference on us being able to sell that home and the pleasure of the future owners. Joe's remark was, well, who's going to pay for me to take that to the dump? And so, as you can see, it still sits there today. Joe's property, sorry, Joe, I've always liked him, but Joe's property is not very tidy. And so we all kind of deal with that as we drive by, and that does affect property values as well in the area. So I just want to say that I feel like we have been neighborly. That's not the issue here.
Are there questions for Mrs. Radigan? Thank you, ma'am.
Here we go.
Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Tabers, and I am the property owner. And I've been to these meetings numerous times. And Verizon has made a deal with me, and we're going to try to go through with the cell tower. I have that 21 acres there, and we have the conditional use permit for storage buildings. I have 4 or 5 people interested in going with me right now to build storage buildings. But until I get this resolved on this cell tower, I don't know what the value of that property is. That's that simple. We were going to proceed with the storage units when the cell tower issue is resolved. Do we have coverage? Yeah. I have to go outside my house, make sure I stand with my cell phone pointed to the south, to the Sheridan Lake Road Tower. And then if I have it on the other side of my head, I don't get service. If I've got it to the cell tower side, I get service. Inside my house, I get no service. And yes, it is about money. It's part of my retirement plan, and it would be very good for me. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Tabur? Yes.
So
Jim.
I have a question.
Excuse me, sir, would you like to step back to the mic?
Joe, so you're, can we look to a future where there will be a cell phone tower and storage buildings on that
Well,
property?
being as it's general commercial property, I've got quite a few options. So I
Right.
have shown the county a plan, and I have a conditional use permit for storage units. But maybe some other use will be there.
Right,
Like I
but
say, I have people knocking on my door.
You
I've
could
got a
have
realtor
both.
with a list of people.
Could you have both, or, actually, I'd look at the setbacks.
I don't
and
know
stuff.
that
I
I-
don't think you could. Could
I-
you? You
I
got
don't
enough
know
room to do
whether it's,
it?
I can still have the storage with the cell tower, but I believe I can. Because I don't think that's not considered another use.
Yeah, well, it's kind of an interesting question, because the neighbors might be upset with the cell tower, but wait till you put in the storage buildings.
Yeah. But I had the conditional use permit before they purchased the land. You had the information before you rezoned the land for the Radigans. So I don't see where that's an issue. If they'd done their due diligence, they would have realized it was general commercial land, and they would have known that there was a conditional use permit. And then when you divided the 10 acres for Mr. Radigan into a 7 and a 3, the 3 doesn't meet the zoning requirements for acreage, I don't think. But you gave him a variance on that. That's okay, I didn't mind, I didn't say a word, I didn't care. They're nice neighbors, and have been. And I hope continue to be. Thank you.
Did you have something?
Yeah, did Lori have a question?
Oh, you got it, okay.
Would anyone else like to speak to this issue? Hearing no further discussion, Chair would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve telecommunications facility permit number TC 1601 with 11 conditions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve telecommunications facilities permit TC 1601 with the 11 conditions recommended by staff. Is there further discussion?
Madam Chair, I'll be
Yes, Sig.
abstaining. The company I work for, we have and are continuing to do work on cell tower sites for Verizon, and I'm a member of the board, so I feel like it's a conflict.
Okay. Are there further comments? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion? The motion is to approve telecommunications facility permit TC 1601. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Aye.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So it can be. Oh, Barb, you're on the hot seat.
Oh, and I'm so conflicted too, because there's been good arguments on both sides. I'll say yes.
Okay.
All right, motion carries. On to item 17, County Board Report.
Sorry. Item 17, County Board Report, conditional use permit 1539 for Bellwether Limited Partnership, Janice and Roger Knutson agent, was appealed and will be heard at the April 19th, 2016 Board of Commissioners meeting. In addition to that, the Board of Commissioners will hear the Planning Commission's recommendations from the February 22nd, 2016 Planning Commission meeting from March 15th, 2016.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All our public left, so I guess there are no items from them.
Okay.
Items from the staff.
Just a couple real quick. One you have before you is the February 2016 building permit report. Shows that single-family residences are down about 38% from 13 this time last year to 8. Overall, we're up 5% from 58 this time last year to 61%. The biggest increase that we have is actually in in residential additions, things such as decks, porches, and basement finishes. They were at 5 last year, and we're at 17 so far this year.
Do you have any idea why we're down so much in numbers?
No,
of
weather's
single
been
family?
good. I don't
Yeah.
really know. We do have a question. We produce this report from Track It, and we also produce this report. Do you need the Excel sheet any longer? Do you like it? If so, we'll keep doing it. It takes staff about 3 or 4 hours to put one together. If you don't need it, we'll just stick with the one we can get from Track It and print that off in about 10 seconds.
I like to read, not that I get it every time. You
Right.
guys are the ones who really do, but I like to read who's
All the
doing
details.
what. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a constant, and we put both of them up on the internet right now,
Yeah.
on our webpage, but we didn't know if you still want both, that's great.
But you're talking about the.
That one, yeah, the
comparative
Excel
thing.
sheets.
That one takes a while to.
Yeah, this is the one that takes a while to produce.
I like the comparative.
Okay.
I mean, that's just my
agree. I think
preference,
this
but
is more important to me than.
I don't want you to work too hard now.
I actually like both.
That's fine. We just wanted to check.
What's going on?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that is.
The other item that we have that's not on here is staff had requested from the Board of Commissioners to move forward with a solar farm ordinance, alternative energy ordinance, and they did give us the go-ahead to start researching that. In addition to that, tomorrow, during the Board of Commissioners meeting, we're going to be presenting a request for a moratorium on solar energy systems for about 6 months.
So we can put an ordinance amendment together?
So applications cannot come in, but if it went through, it would not take effect until April 5th. In addition to,
Any building permit that included that wouldn't be.
Would be held
will be held up. Yep.
until we know.
Also, just so you guys know, the appeal from the Kroll ready-mix construction permits is going before the board tomorrow, and they're looking at possibly scheduling the next hearing on April 5th, 2016. In addition to that, there's going to be a request for a moratorium on construction permits and mining licenses in general agriculture districts at the same time the solar energy permit goes. Other than that, not much from us.
Okay. Boy, you lucky people.
I have a
Yes,
question.
Jim.
The building report, and it was down dramatically. I keep thinking, as I look at Pennington County, and I see, in the area where there's going to be a lot of growth, maybe east of Rapid City, in that part of the county, we have Rapid City, annexing property and moving out, and we have Box Elder, which is a very aggressive, as I understand it, expansionist community, and I'm wondering if the better properties are being gobbled up. And that's why we have,
Could
now I
be.
know up in the western part of the county, there's nice homes in the hills and stuff like that. But as far as subdivisions, it seems like a good part of the flat ground, that's got a view of the hills and cheap to build on and so
Good
forth, is
point.
being gobbled up by those.
Yeah, right.
And so maybe this is a harbinger of things to come. I don't know.
It's the only available flatlands.
Yeah,
on
right,
79.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's
no to that.
it. Mitch Morse is doing us a favor.
He's a visionary.
He's a visionary.
Okay. Is there anything else from staff?
Nothing more from staff.
Okay, anything from membership? Anybody have anything?
Yeah, it's a very small thing, really, but month after month, year after year, we get these conditional use permits that are reviewed. And I'll use an example, number 6 in this one, manufactured home uses a ranch hand residence, and the review, I think, was every 3 years. And my question is, why? Do these things ever die? Why can't we just leave them on a complaint basis? The staff says they're overworked, and yet they're adding to their own work by doing these constant reviews on things that aren't going to change unless or until the owner decides to do that or a complaint comes in. I would like to, the ones I questioned on this were number 6 and number 9, again, another 3-year review, and number 11. You know, I would like to see them just complaint only or requested change.
Can I respond to that? Somewhat to me, and I'm the old dog here, but I have seen where when we are looking at these, I've seen some really big messes that happen on these conditional use permits, where people, if it wasn't having some kind of time limit, there could be a real mess out there. I remember one time we had a mobile home that was supposed to be there for a caretaker. And you should have seen that thing. It had windows out, a door hanging. You know, and if we didn't have that 3-year review, I mean, I don't know what they were doing to begin with to have something like that on there. But if we didn't have a 3-year review, we wouldn't catch some of that stuff. It was a pile of junk. And there have been things over the years that I've seen, and I don't know, we don't have any building inspections. We don't have any other way to check unless we would have our ordinance person monitor those. But to me, sometimes they're important. That time limit is important. We've also used time limits to make sure that a contractor, a developer, actually does what they say they're going to do. Or we've had a landowner who isn't doing what they say they're going to do. So we monitor them with a 6-month or a 1-year review. And to some extent, it gives us an ability to monitor what's going on.
Can I add one thing, too? One really good example is item number 5, Mr. Young.
Yes.
He had all the issues with the septic systems and was informed he was up for review. And you would think that someone, that he would be like super wanting to comply with all his conditions based
knows
on
us
all the
well.
leniency the county gave him. Because of the review, then, we discovered the other issues. I mean, we would not have had that opportunity to discover those issues if it wasn't a 2-year review on that permit.
I think you're making the assumption that I'm looking at a blanket statement. I'm more looking for common sense. And I'll use as an example the ranch hand residence. It's just not needed. And then a review of a single wide that somebody's actually living in. Leave it alone. Maybe half of the ones that are reviewed routinely don't need to be. And that's what I am looking at as an option.
And I think sometimes it does seem silly, but I also know that there are times when I am really glad we have had the ability to review them.
Yeah, I remember one case where we had a ranch hand's residence, and the property was sold, and the new owners rented out the ranch hand's
Yes,
residence to somebody
yes.
else, and then put another single wide on the property, so there were 3 residences on one property, and we caught that by a CUP.
Well, selling a property could trigger a review, certainly, and that could even be added in.
Well, I think we've also had kind of situations where we expanded the time, haven't we? I mean,
Right,
we've gone
yeah.
to 2, and somebody's really been a good,
Yeah.
a good soldier. We've, said, well, let's not review this for 3 years or 4 years, or, so I think more of that is, some of that is perhaps, would be a compromise on what Barb's suggesting, because that would move us in that direction. Because there are people out there who
that are good.
dang well are gonna, do what they need to
They're
do.
gonna toe
And
the
they're gonna
line,
be, there's a sort of an instinctual thing, I think, in past performance, so.
Well, I think there are some things, though, that, I mean, like, the one that really kind of gets me is if you put a duplex up, that's a conditional use permit.
Yeah.
It's sort of like,
Right.
we're really going to make them tear down a duplex?
Really? Yes.
So I mean, like, things like that, to me, it's not so much the conditional use,
Yeah.
it's a change our
That makes
zoning.
sense.
And I know we've talked about doing some things more administratively, and I would agree there where is routine and that. But I also think, I mean, like, if you're citing today's, I circled 3, I mean, not that I objection to that as a roofing company, but I mean, like, to me, the home occupation should be where the work being done is on the property. Here it's just a staging area for a roofing company to have materials and 6 employees meeting on a property to head out to somebody else's house.
Yeah.
I don't think that was ever an intent of a home occupation. And
Right.
to me, having it reviewed gives you an opportunity to come back and say, well, maybe let's start weaning this down and getting it back to where it should be. Because like, we have the ability, we could have pulled this and changed the conditions.
Yeah,
Got it
that's
more in
true.
line with what we want.
Yeah.
From staff's perspective, we consider a complaint only something you earn. We're the ones that take in all the complaint phone calls, we're the ones that get all the emails, we're the ones that talk considerably on the phone with people, stuff you guys never hear about, never see. So usually, every conditional use permit that's new gets a 1-year review. See if that is established, see what happens. Then after that, if it's good, then you'll get a 3-year review. And then if that one's good, then you get a 5-year review. That's the standard. So you're already looking at 9 years. Then after that, then it's going to be complaint basis only, or as decided by the planning commission or the board of commissioners. If you do a complaint basis only, how else are you going to review it unless a complaint comes in? And there are reviews that are necessary and there are no complaints on them.
Well, maybe what we can do going forward is, as we review our agendas before meetings, to take a look at those, specific ones that are on the consent calendar. And if they live in our memory like Bob Young, we will leave them alone. But if there are things that we believe are fine, then we can amend the conditions.
Well, I guess my comment is, I appreciate the staff work that you guys do, because I noticed that, I noticed in our packet today, they all had different, they have different things on them, and there's a reason for it. You guys are doing your job.
Exactly.
You're researching it thoroughly, and you've decided this guy earns 5 years, or this guy earns complaint basis only. And I don't think we should tell you how to do your job.
Okay. The other thing that we are seeing a trend on our end is residents and citizens are asking for more oversight, more restriction, more reviews. I mean, the number of complaints that we're getting in, that's the way the trend is going in our office. That's what we're seeing,
Interesting.
is neighbors want more oversight of their neighbors.
Okay. Is there anything else for membership? It was a good discussion. Thank you, Barb. If not, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Thank you.